they are changing around the rules about Android app development. So previously, anyone who downloaded Android Studio or the Android Developer Toolchain could fire it up, create a project, build an APK file, and then install it on any phone. Now, you would have to enable a developer setting to allow installing APKs or installing from third-party app stores, but it was still an option. Now, Android devices, specifically certified Android devices is the wording, those are the ones that have Google's Play Protect suite, will only permit you to install apps, even ones that have developer mode enabled, that have been signed by a developer certificate that has undergone a certain amount of verification. Google's analogy for this was like an ID check at the airport, which confirms the traveler's identity, but is separate from security screening of their bags. In other words, they verify that you are not a scammer, but they don't verify that the app doesn't have anything malicious in it. Google's argument for this is to combat convincing fake apps, is the quote, and to make it harder for malicious actors to create new apps immediately after they take them down. Now, they will add a new Android developer console for folks who don't distribute their apps on Google Play to allow them to undergo this verification and have their apps signed without going through the full rigmarole of getting Google Play access.
So, one thing that does annoy me about this, over than the obvious, is let's say I'm a developer, because I've meddled in Android development before, especially as part of my uni course. And one issue I have now is that if I want to, which I have, test my app on my personal Android device, do I now need to go through like Google developer verification if I want to just test an app I'm writing on my device? Because now I can't install it without going through Google's.
That's unclear. I would imagine if I were designing this and I were at Google, then I would imagine that there would be some way for you to install it on a handful of devices for testing, similar to how when you're developing an iOS app, you can install it on a handful of iOS devices without having to either submit it on test flight or go through the App Store. So imagine there would be something similar, but I'm not entirely sure if that's been confirmed yet.
Well, I'm just adding this to the ever-growing list of reasons I'm considering moving to Graphene OS.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea that when I'm handed a device that I own, that I can destroy it and get myself in the utmost trouble to my heart's content because I own it and it is my fault. When someone tries to be my father and protect me from myself, I'm less interested. And this is, the differences between Android and iOS are starting to become ever less, just from the overarching control Google is starting to implement on their devices. Not the biggest fan. Probably most people it won't affect, but it is, like Corey said, what if I want to make my own thing and mess around with it? Well, that's a big problem now, isn't it? So, it's
honestly, the
part
other
of
thing
the
is,
course. I'm surprised it's taken this long, if I'm honest, but hey, it's not ideal.
The thing is, I might just move to iPhone now. Like I said, Google's intent on making Android just bad iOS at this point. I might just make the jump.
Exactly. This is what I've always been fairly against Apple in this kind of in both this section of this version of Untitled and the former, and stuff like this has me going, well, lesser of two evils. Apple do seem to care a bit more about security. So, And
as we'll get onto later, the Apple event happened recently.
Oh, right.